WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teal. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teal, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm so happy that you could join us today. We have another wonderful program that I think you're really going to like. We are live from Boca Raton, Florida, and this show is for family caregivers, taking care of people that cannot take care of themselves for lots of different reasons. But we do have a focus on dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and other dementias that can affect caregivers in so many different ways. So if you're a caregiver and you know how hard it is, this show is especially for you. We bring experts in different fields on the show to talk about things that caregivers would need to know about. Everything from legal documents to medical forms to research, you name it, we've had it. So we're very happy to present the show to you. We are in our third year, and we've heard from many of you, and we love to hear from you. Keep on calling, and we're excited today because a few months ago, I had a guest, and he called in, and we talked about one of his books, and he was so delightful and so interesting and so well received that he promised to come back and talk about his second book. So I'm very excited today to have him with us live in the studio, in person. And this gentleman is an author. He is an executive coach for companies both national and international. And he is just a really good guy. So I think you're really going to like him. And I'm happy to welcome today here David Paulet. Hi, David.
Hey, Marcia. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, it's good to have you right here in the studio, face to face, and everybody can see you and listen and learn, and I'm so excited about today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Live and in person is definitely a treat.
Okay, that could mean a lot of things. So we're going to have a good time today talking, but also helping. Yeah. We talk about a lot of issues that caregivers have, and I know you have some personal experiences being a family caregiver, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Yeah. Last time you were with us via telephone, we talked about your first book. It's called The Law of the Garbage Truck. Kind of a funny saying, but when you know what it's all about, it's very applicable. So let's just do a quick review, if you will, and tell everyone, what does the law of the garbage truck mean? What's this all about?
Well, the whole idea of the law of the garbage truck is that we all know day to day we run into people who are rough on the streets, they drive poorly, or people who are short at work with us, or we have little run-ins at home. And how do we control ourselves, and how do we deal with negativity that others bring to us, or even that we create ourselves? So the law of the garbage truck is something that I created years ago based on a story that I experienced in New York City. I was in the back of a New York City taxi cab, and I'll save the big story, but just tell the short part, is that a taxi driver was so terrific in the way he responded to a bad driver that I was really taken by that, and I remembered that. And years later, when I was leading an international organization, I really wanted to make a story that people would remember around how to navigate negativity. What's the stuff that you can't control, that you shouldn't focus on, and the negativity that's important because it's around a very important subject and you should deal with to know the difference. I came up with this idea of what I called the law of the garbage truck. And that essentially helps you discern what stuff you want to take and focus on and what's the stuff you want to let go and not focus on at all.
Well, as people know, garbage trucks dump things,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so basically, you talk about what you shouldn't dump on people and what you shouldn't let people dump on you. And I think that's a really good visual when you picture the garbage truck with that negativity dumping on others.
Yeah, that's Marcia, that's a great point, because the idea is, the metaphor is that we are not meant to be garbage trucks. Garbage trucks in real life are tremendous. They come in my neighborhood twice a week. They pick up all the stuff that we need to get out of the house that would not be safe for us to keep on in the house for a long period of time. So the garbage truck comes, picks it up, travels somewhere to dump it someplace safe, and then what's it do? It goes back on its rounds. It's always looking for bad stuff to fill up on and go away. But human beings are not meant to be that way. We're not meant to take all the rumors, gossip, unfair criticism, excessive negativity, and take all that stuff and fill up on it, so that we're so full of frustration and anger and all of that when someone says something just a little off or does something a little bit that we don't like, it triggers the garbage truck mechanism where then we dump all that frustration on other people, and that's just not a good situation. So that's the idea of the garbage truck metaphor, and then the story is to always remember that we are not garbage trucks. We're not meant to collect garbage. We're not meant to create garbage in our own minds, and we're not meant to dump it on other people.
David, how does this law apply for caregivers? Because, caregivers are taking care of others, and it's a really hard job. Yes. It's 24/7 sometimes or longer, as in the case of the 36-hour day book that we always talk about. It's very frustrating. It's very challenging. It's a really hard thing to do. And caregivers naturally are going to feel negativity, and they're going to be frustrated, and they're going to just be overwhelmed. How can the law of the garbage truck apply to help caregivers with that?
Yeah, so important, because when we go to visit our loved ones, if they're not living at home or if they're at home and we're seeing them every day, like Marcia, you were saying, the 36-hour rule. I mean, the 36-hour day is really a reality for all of us. So the idea is that we want to be really careful about what we're taking in and taking personally. What are the negative things that are happening around us that we're taking in and taking it personally? So that, especially when we're dealing, and my father had Alzheimer's, and that was a tough thing to see. We took my dad up on his 80th birthday, and he was in a plane, and he was in a biplane flying it and doing great. And then over the next 6 years of steady decline, cognitively, and he said, it's big personality. We call him Big Lou. I talk about that in both books. There's stories about him. He'll come to life. You'll get a sense of who he is. But it was so sad to see that happening. And part of the challenge, my dad was so loving that one of the things that was so helpful about the law of the garbage truck is that when Dad would say something that he didn't know what he was saying, and he didn't mean it, and he didn't intend it, and he wasn't going to remember it 10 minutes later, that we would identify that as lovingly as garbage that we don't want to take in and take it personally and get frustrated and get upset, and then bring that right back to Big Lou, who didn't realize what he was bringing to us. So the first thing is just to acknowledge that there's that type of situation happening. The other is that when you're a caregiver, you often are working with nurses or health aides or administrators, and they have their challenges too. And you don't want to take personally if they're having a little bit of a difficult day themselves, or they're not as friendly as they are normally, to then say, oh my gosh, they must be, why are they like that? And they shouldn't do that. And and whatever else negative thoughts start going through your mind, so that you fill up on all that negativity combined with the frustration of of not always hearing what you hope to hear from a loved one, that you want to then be careful not to fill up on all that, because then you start to feel bad and you have less energy to focus positively and lovingly on the ones that you love. So that's one of the first places that I'd say it's really helpful.
Well, that's a really good point, because, when we talk with caregivers all the time, they do get upset when their loved one reacts differently than what they're used to.
Right.
And they do tend sometimes to take it very personally.
Yes.
And, oh, you know what he said to me, and how could he say that? And,
right.
and he doesn't appreciate me, and I do so much for him. And so it does upset them. So you're saying basically don't let those negative things enter into your life. In other words, put them in perspective.
Yeah.
Know that it's not the person really, it's the disease talking.
Right,
I mean, that's
exactly.
what we say to caregivers. They're not themselves anymore. This disease has taken over, and they are not the person that you knew, or not the person that raised you in the case of parents.
That's
that
right.
maybe have dementia, or spouses even. And so it's a hard thing to do. Your books are extremely interesting. I mean, I've read both of them, and we're going to talk about the other one a little bit. But what I really love about your books are all the stories you tell. And that makes it so interesting, because not only are you sharing some great advice and some wonderful principles, but you're giving examples in real life stories, and that people can relate to. And it's very relatable.
Thank you.
And you just, want to keep reading and not stop, because it's really more of a growth. I mean, they're both, I would classify them both as personal growth books.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so reading these, you can read different parts of it, but I think reading from beginning to end, it really gives you the whole gist of what you're showing, because in the books you have little, I don't want to call it a test, but maybe a survey kind of a thing, where people can put in their information and then find out where they fit, in this process. And I think it's very helpful for people that way too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Great to point out that there are two assessments in the book, and one is are you a garbage acceptor, and another is, are you a garbage dumper? And the idea is to get an idea of how much garbage you're bringing in every day. And again, it's emotional garbage. We're calling it that rather than something that has a lot of other sometimes serious meaning, and it's just meant to be we don't want to carry garbage around. We're not garbage trucks. Like there's a lightheartedness to it, but a very serious application of it. But the idea with these two assessments is just to say, how do you respond to more than a dozen or 24 different experiences that happen on a regular basis? And when on the garbage acceptor, it means how much of the stuff that you don't need to take personally are you taking personally? Because the more you fill up that way, the less energy, positive energy you have to do the things you want to do with other people, and the more easily you're able to get triggered. And the garbage dumper is how we want people. The book has a trajectory of starting with how much negativity is brought to us from other people, and then how much negativity do we create ourselves. And the third part is really to help people understand, what are you bringing to other people? When they experience you, what are they experiencing, and how much emotional garbage are you bringing into their life? And so that's it. How much of a garbage dumper are you? And it's meant to be enlightening. And the good thing is it's your book, so you write down whatever your answers are. You never have to share your total with anyone. But I'm a visual guy, so what we do is we have you plot your score of how much garbage you're accepting and how much garbage you're dumping to come up with a total garbage score. And you fill it in, and you'll see on an actual garbage truck how much garbage you're carrying and bringing to the world. And it gives you a visual to say, either, hey, I'm doing a great job and I want to continue to do it, or, I've got some room here to improve.
Yeah.
And quality of life will.
Yeah, it's very helpful. So on a practical note, I have a scenario for you, speaking about, we talked about not taking in the garbage, like from a loved one who has dementia. Don't take in whatever they spew out at you. Don't take it personally. Yeah. But what about the caregivers who are asked on a daily basis, how are things going? How are you feeling? Or how's your loved one? Are you saying that you shouldn't tell tell the story, or you shouldn't or you don't want to be a Pollyanna and just say, oh, everything's great and fine,
yeah.
right? So
Right.
there's a certain way to answer that question without being a dumper, right?
That's right.
So how would a caregiver respond to, how are you feeling, or how is your loved one doing today?
Yeah, it's, again, a great question, because if you what you want to ultimately do as a caregiver is you can't do it alone. You can't be by yourself trying to figure out how to take care of your loved one all the time by yourself. You need people around you, and you need support. And when you walk into like Arden Courts was where my dad was, a beautiful facility, wonderful people, great experience there. But when we walk in there, we want to have a good experience and bring in and have the best experience, for us as we come in. And I got so excited about it. I have to tell you, I'm thinking Arden Courts. That's where my dad. And now I'm sort of getting emotional thinking of my father.
Oh,
so it's
because
pretty.
he recently passed, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I'm so sorry
He
for
did.
your loss.
Well, and you knew him, and he thought you were terrific from what he could express. And
he was a great guy, and you come from a great family, and it is emotional, for sure. But thank you for those compliments that you've given us. And so a caregiver then would say,
oh yeah,
what?
so it would be, one is thank their friends for bringing them back to whatever they were saying, because so often you get so overwhelmed that you forget what you're talking about half the time. Mm-hmm. What I say to a caregiver is, you want support in your life. So you want to share with other people, and you want them to experience. This is what I mean. You want them to know what you're going through, but you don't want to make them feel the experience to the degree that if you're not feeling good, you don't want to make someone feel bad in order for you then to feel understood. You can describe the experience. And so what we try to say is, describe the experience. Say what's going on. Say, can I share with you what my real answer? And they'll say yes. I'm feeling down. I'm not feeling good. I'm overwhelmed. Whatever the case might be, because if you say it that way, then people, as opposed to acting frustrated and upset and angry and directing that unintentionally or sometimes intentionally at somebody else, so that they feel your pain, that's going to drive people away eventually. People eventually just, it was too much. They want to hear what's going on. They want to be of help, and they want to feel as though they're going to make you feel better, as opposed to that they themselves walk away feeling, oh my gosh, I think they're not only angry at the situation, they're angry at me.
Yeah.
So that's where we don't want it.
Yeah,
dump
good
on
answer.
others.
Thank you for that. Tell them what's going on. Be honest. Short and sweet, so that if you're in a situation where perhaps the person you're talking to could be of help, they're going to want to help.
Right.
They're going to want to offer help. And I just have to say, as a side note to caregivers, if someone offers you help, take it.
Yeah.
Take
right.
it, because it is wonderful when people do want to help, and I think that's a great thing. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to David about his second book, The 3 Promises. So stay tuned.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Hi, I'm Michael Mole.
Often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused.
If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. My guest today is David Paulet. He is an author of 2 books so far, and he is also an executive coach for national and international companies around the globe. And I'm so excited to have him here with me today, live in our studio in Boca Raton. And so, David, we talked about the first book, The Law of the Garbage Truck, and that was great. It's great information and advice for anybody, but it does also apply to caregivers. Because, as we mentioned before, commercial break, your father suffered from Alzheimer's disease, and you and your mom are both caregivers, for him, even though he lived in a memory care community. So you know firsthand what it's like.
Yeah.
So now I'd like to talk about the second book, because this one, to me, seems like it's a segue, if you will, from The Law of the Garbage Truck. This one's called The 3 Promises. Find joy every day, do what you love, and make a difference. And hint, hint, those are the 3 promises, right on,
exactly.
right on the jacket
right on
cover,
the cover,
right on the cover. No guessing.
No hiding.
No guessing there. And I've read both of your books.
Thank you.
And very enjoyable. And The Law of the Garbage Truck is, to me, talks about a lot of things, what not to do, you know. And then this book segues right into, but here's what you can do.
That's
and
right.
Step by step to find more joy and happiness in your life.
Right.
So I wanted you to come back today to talk about this book, since we didn't have time last time you were here a few months ago.
Yeah.
This is an awesome book as well, full of personal stories.
Thank you.
I knew that when I met you, I liked you. There was something
Likewise.
special. Oh, thank you. About you. But after reading all the personal stories that you have put in both your books, I can see, how you were raised and how your family was, and it's very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
So what made you want to write the 3 promises?
It's interesting. The 3 promises came out about 4 years or some number of years after The Law of the Garbage Truck. But originally, the 3 promises was the book that was meant to come out first. But there was such an interest internationally in The Law of the Garbage Truck, it took off virally, because I wrote about it in a newspaper column at one point, that it went so far and wide around the world that I ended up then filling out the rest of the story about The Law of the Garbage Truck and the message there. But I've always wanted to get back to, and that's what the 3 promises about. What can you do? So as Marcia said it so well, that the Law of the Garbage Truck is, what negativity do you not want to bring into your life? But once you get that navigated and you have that understood, then what is it that you can do every single day to create fulfillment in your life? What is it that you can do that's it's not dependent on other people, so that other people are not responsible for your happiness, or what I like to focus on, your fulfillment. So the 3 promises is based on research in the field of positive psychology, the field that I study, and have a leadership role in. And what are those things that we can do every day? They can be small things, but that we can create our own positive experience, and ultimately then have a positive experience on all the rest of the people that we interact with.
Yeah, that's obviously this information is needed and wanted, because I know The Law of the Garbage Truck has been reprinted, and it's in 13 languages now?
Yes.
All over 13 different languages, and I know this one is several as well.
Yes.
So the information and help that you bring to people is obviously much needed. The 3 promises, I think they're pretty simple.
Yeah.
Right? They're just simple things. It's not hard. It's a simple thing. But I think that you break it down for people, because even though it sounds simple, it's not always something that's simple to do if you're not aware.
Right.
And I think this awareness that you bring, and by breaking down the step by step, is so helpful, not only to everyone. I mean, everyone can benefit from this, even family caregivers.
Yes,
And
big time.
we find that a lot of books that would be considered growth or self-help or something like that, a lot of family caregivers couldn't relate to because of their specific situation with caregiving with a loved one, a spouse, or a grandparent, or a parent. But your books are applicable to even family caregivers as well as everybody else, and that's what I really love about it.
I appreciate that.
And I suppose that with your father going through this different stages of Alzheimer's, following the three promises in your own life, or in your mom, I know that she's a big supporter of yours as well.
She is.
She would follow the three promises. She's a wonderful lady. But I imagine it would be harder and harder to do as your dad's situation worsened.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. When things are going hard, we're getting tougher and harder, it's even that much more important that we're creating fulfillment in our life. And when I say fulfillment, there'll be a lot of folks focus on happiness, which I think is great, but my thinking is that, based on research, that happiness is really a trailing indicator that you're living a fulfilled life. That if you're doing things, as I call them, the three promises, if you're finding joy every day, if you're doing something that you love to do, work-wise or hobby-wise, where you're getting to use your art or creative work or whatever that might be, writing for me, that's the do what you love promise. The third is make a difference, where you're actually doing something for other people that's beyond your self-interest. That if you're doing that every day, you're going to create a level of fulfillment that ultimately then translates into a feeling of happiness. And that's where, if we can, no matter, especially when things are going hard with our families, is that to the degree I can center myself on things that are authentic to me, that I find joy in, not what Marcia finds joy in necessarily, although we have a lot in common because I've known Marcia now for a few years. But the idea is that what I find brings me joy, what I find makes me feel that
because then that's going to come out of you, right?
Right.
And spill over into other people's lives in a positive way.
That's right.
So it's almost like the opposite of the garbage truck. You're not dumping the garbage. You're overflowing with your own fulfillment, touching the lives of other people in a more positive, loving way.
That's right. And I think it's Henry David Thoreau has this great quote, something to the effect of, let our behaviors, and this is really a real paraphrase, but let our behaviors create the sweet atmosphere around us. And so when I think of the Earth's atmosphere, if each of us is like the Earth and there's an atmosphere around us, we need a healthy atmosphere in order for us to live. So if we can have a healthy atmosphere around us, then everyone around us benefits, and they feel the love, they feel the support, and they want to help us and support us on our journey.
Especially for caregivers who do not feel fulfilled, because they feel sometimes that they're missing out on life because Alzheimer's comes unexpectedly, and they're now in the throes of caregiving, and a lot of caregivers look at it like, my life is over, I never expected this, and they get down and they get depressed, and they don't really have that fulfillment. They don't have peace. They don't have joy.
Right.
But what you're saying is, no matter your circumstances, there are ways still to feel fulfillment, to have peace, to find joy in the smallest things, which, if you add up all those small things, it's huge.
Yeah, it's. I have to say, it has been. People ask me all the time. They'll say, "Do you use what you write about? Do you use the books?" And the answer is, having gone through this with my father, and lost my father, and my mom actually was recently hospitalized, and I've been working with her to help her recover and get her health back. Creating fulfillment in my life is absolutely critical to my ability to support and love and share my love every day with my dad when he was with us, or with my mom. because if I don't have that energy, then it's almost like then I am just floating and ready for any negative thing to knock me off course, for somebody to say something wrong and for me to take it personally, make it worse. And there's a lot of research that says caregiving is a direct cause of depression for a lot of people. And I know from my experience that if you're not careful in what we've been talking about, if you're not careful on how you navigate negativity, using the law of the garbage truck as one tool, and if you're not creating your own fulfillment on a daily basis, you're vulnerable to depression. And depression is so tough. Anyone who's ever experienced it, and I think most people have in some capacity, is really hard. And so a way to help create some strength in the face of what is natural, the depression that can come with caregiving, is to follow the 3 promises every day. And we can talk about the fun ways of doing so, but just really making sure you have those 3 promises active.
Yep, that was great, because we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, Dave is going to share about the 3 promises, practical ways that you can implement each one in your life. So we'll be right back.
Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know, we understand, we can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
CareGiver Solutions.
At this time, I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care. Arden Courts is a leader in the field of memory care. They have about 50 assisted livings for memory care across the United States. They have 10 right here in Florida, and the rest are sprinkled across the country. And Arden Courts is a great resource for caregivers. They have support groups, they have seminars, they have all kinds of collateral that they can share with you to help you answer questions in your caregiving challenges. One of the ways that Arden Courts would like to help you is to offer this free book. This is called The 36-Hour Day, and it's written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace, and this is an awesome resource for caregivers. This book explains the differences and the different types of dementia. It goes into explaining difficult behaviors and how to address them. It even talks about medications. If you don't have this book, or you know someone who's a caregiver that does not have this book, then please give us a call. It is absolutely free just for asking. All you have to do is call the Arden Courts toll-free line, which is 888-478-2410. Again, 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about the offer on the CareGiver Solutions Info Show, and they'll be happy to take your name and address and make sure that a book gets mailed directly to your doorstep. So give us a call Get the book. It's really wonderful. And tell them how you like the show. So today my guest is David Paulet. He is an author, executive coach for national and international companies around the world, teaching executives about the law of the garbage truck, which is his first book, and the three promises, which is his second book. So we're talking about the three promises in this segment of our show. And the three promises are very simple. They are find joy every day, do what you love, and make a difference. So we're going to talk about each one of those, David, and give us some examples of how someone could take the information in this book and apply it to their life to be fulfilled. Because as you mentioned earlier, being fulfilled will ultimately and naturally lead to happiness.
That's right.
Yeah. So, okay, let's take the first one. Find joy every day. I mean, how do we do that when especially if we're a caregiver, or we have a really terrible job, or we're unemployed, or you have a lot of stuff on your plate and everything just seems to be going wrong for you and you're just frustrated, angry at the world? How do you find joy every day?
Yes, a good question. So this is what I would do if we were in a workshop or when I'm working with executives and we're trying to create fulfillment in their lives. And I'll say, and do this right now. If you're watching or if you're driving, wait till later. But if you are in a place where you can write something down or type it in your computer or on your phone, I just ask you to do this. Think of all of the things every day, small or big ways, that bring joy to your life, or could or have brought joy to your life. So people will, some folks will just start writing. Others will be like, what? I don't, especially now that I'm caregiving and I'm working full time and I'm a parent, I really don't know. That's the issue. So I'll say, well, what do you do that you enjoy doing? And so the list begins. I like drinking coffee in the morning. I like brewing my own coffee. I like to take my dog for a little walk. So they find
joy in the fact of the smell of the coffee.
Right.
Right? Like delight in it. It's almost like stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, stop and smell the coffee.
Stop and smell the if you like the roses, right?
That's right.
But I think it's not just doing it. I think it's more of being aware of all of these joys. I think people do have joys, little joys like you're talking about, but I don't think they're aware of it.
That's right.
And I don't think they appreciate it, and they don't have the gratitude attitude, which you do talk about in your book, right?
Yes.
The attitude of gratitude.
Yes.
And I think if people kind of cultivate that, they will find this joy that you're talking about, which to me is very interesting when you say people kind of like look at you blankly, that they don't know what joy has been in their life.
That's right. And it brings up a couple things I'll share then with everybody, that here are two first and second chapters inside the Find Joy promise. That is, you want to identify your positive triggers is what I talk about. And the quick little story is that when I was saying goodbye to my wife one morning, I kissed her goodbye and I left and went to the office, and I don't, like everyone, I was having one of those days where I wasn't feeling that great. And what do you do when you're not feeling great? You typically look down. I looked down at the floor and I started laughing because I saw I had stickers all over my shoes. And I started laughing even more because I realized that my little girls, who were like 2 and 3 at the time, slipped stickers on my shoes, and without my knowing, and just knowing that they tricked Dad.
Like little cartoon stickers.
Yeah, it was like Dora the Explorer and Barney the dinosaur and, that stuff. And just thinking about that made me laugh. And then I started smiling. And then I thought, you have one of those moments where you say, I think I wasn't feeling good a moment ago, and I don't know why, but I'm feeling good now. And I realized that ultimately that's a positive trigger. Just like that, just the thought of my little girls putting stickers on my shoes made me happy, made me smile, made me laugh. And just today, even when I get nervous or worried about something, I'll just look down at my shoes, and the trigger will make me laugh because it's so in my head that that's something, that memory is that the stickers are, forever on my shoes. So I ask you, and I ask everyone to think about in the book, or what are those positive triggers in your life that when you hear it, or like we were saying, the smell of coffee, or the sound of a certain music, or the touch of a loved one, whatever those things are, is to build the repertoire. I talk about my mom was a singer, mom and dad were singers, they had my mom one time. We were in the basement, and there was a filing cabinet of all this sheet music, and Mom just started pulling one song out after another and started singing like a song. And she went through, she probably sang like 30 songs. Just pull out sheet music, start singing, and that's the idea of finding joy. Is you want to create really a filing cabinet of lots of little things that bring you joy, so you can tap them every day. And identifying your positive triggers is one of them.
Yeah,
sure.
so when you're feeling depressed or down or whatever those negative feelings are, tap into the joyful things and thinking about it. You know,
That's right.
I read the books, and you didn't tell the rest of the story about the stickers, because what I found really
True.
I found really cute was that after you looked down and saw the stickers on your feet, you said in the book, and then I just remembered all the places in the office that I'd walked to and all the people that I talked to with the stickers on my shoes that I didn't know were there and what they must have thought.
That's
and
right.
that made you even smile,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Really, really cute. Let's go to do what you love, okay? Because this is a biggie, and I know that caregivers don't always get a chance to do what they love because they say they don't have time, or, you know, oh, that would be selfish of me to do what I love when I have to give all my time to my loved one with dementia that needs me. So talk about do what you love.
You know, first I just have to start with what you'd said about when we get to that point where we say, I just need to give all my time to my loved one. Our loved one wants our time, but wants our love and our good spirit and the positive energy. And so whatever we can do, when we take care of ourselves, then we're ultimately taking care of our loved ones. If we let ourselves go to the point where we feel bad, feel depressed, that's a tough place to be. And we want to make sure that we don't do that.
Right. So if you're not taking care of yourself, which we talk about all the time with caregivers, and people say, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. But what does that really mean?
Yes.
You know, how do I translate that statement into something tangible or something that I can actually do? So this is what you talk about.
Yeah, and that's where, so there's a quick story that I'll just tell. When I was in college, I was at Yale University. I was studying a lot of great stuff that I was studying, but what I was finding is that life was sort of passing me by. I was really engrossed in all this work, but I wasn't exploring, and I wasn't testing out the things that I was interested in. And what I say in the second promise, and I say to caregivers, is look at your time and look at your available time, and look what are the things that you could explore that are of interest of any sort, there's an expression of what you love to do. And so for, like, Marcia and I were talking at the break, that she's by the way, she's terrific. You know, when we're interviewing, it's fun. I just love being here.
Thank you.
It's what she does naturally. But she was also a marketing director of the national organization and doing all these other things, but still always finding a way to express herself through communication. And she's terrific in everything she does. I mean, she's written a song and poetry and all that. And for me, it's writing is one of those things. And all of us have something that we enjoy doing and that brings out some of our artistry or what we like to do. So what I ask people to do is think about, I call it a fill year, is think of over the next year or maybe the next month, where are those little gaps of time that are available? They might not feel like you have much energy, but what are those gaps of time? And what can you do during those gaps of time that expresses your passion, your interest? And so that could be for writing, it could be speaking, it could be researching, it could be reading, it could be volunteering, but whatever it is that brings a feeling of love of what you do and what you really care about. And if you do that, you match that up with joy, finding some joy every day, and then we'll talk about the third promise in a moment, but making a difference, then you feel so much better. And you have more to give because you feel as though you're making some daily progress. And I say even just 5 minutes a day of doing something you love. For me, it's taking a notebook and just writing, you know, even for 5 minutes. And I'll put my timer. If I only have 5 minutes, just write for 5 minutes. And I have a feeling, sort of a carryover feeling of I'm actually doing something to express my gift. And that makes me feel better as I take care of my loved ones in a caregiving mode.
Right. You have in this chapter, Do What You Love, something called the Key Test. And this is designed to help people find what they love. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the key test is really a way of it's real quick. It's one page, and it will give you an idea of what are your yearnings, what are the things that bring out make you want to learn more, make you want to study, make you want to think, make you want to share. It's a real quick assessment, and at the end of it will give you a pretty good idea of where you have opportunity to increase the things that you do every day that bring out more of your natural gifts, the things that you're really good at and you want to be good at or better at.
I like that. And so basically the takeaway from this chapter for caregivers is do what you love, even if it's for 5 minutes a day, because that's going to make you feel better about yourself. It's going to make you have more joy. And then you'll be able to relate that into your caregiving, which will obviously be a good thing for the whole family or for your loved one who you're caring for. So, take care of yourself and do what you love. So that's very good advice.
I have to tell you just real quick one thing. So for me, writing stories, telling stories is part of what brings me joy. With my father, I always had like 4 stories that no matter where he was in the cycle of dementia, he could pick up on a bit, and so I would tell those stories and tell them over and over again every time, and every time would bring a smile to him. And it was, for me, it was an expression of what I love to do: tell stories, create stories, and my stories probably got a little better over time.
You embellished a little bit.
Yeah, and meanwhile they're making a difference to him. So if someone is an artist and they paint and they share that with their loved one or whatever is your gift. Or if you like to read and you read to your loved one, whatever it is, sing like my mom, whatever, it makes a difference. So those stories, and some of them are off color, it's because it's my dad and I just being, just sharing
whatever
with each other.
Works, right, David?
It would make them laugh. It would make them laugh.
Whatever makes them laugh, whatever you can share a special moment with, it doesn't matter. It's personal for you. That's great advice. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the third promise, make a difference, in just a moment. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick word.
Do you need the advice?
The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know. We understand. We can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows Equal Housing Opportunity Guidelines.
Info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and my special guest today is David Paulet. He is an author of 2 awesome books, and he's an executive coach for national and international companies around the world. And he's here with us in the studio sharing his advice and expertise for caregivers, for all of us really, but very applicable to family caregivers.
Yes.
And you know from experience, and unfortunately, you know, your family, your dad passed with Alzheimer's, and now
Yeah.
you're helping your mom through some physical recovery. So
Yeah.
you know about caregiving, and I think that it's so apropos that you're here to share all of this, and you can definitely relate to our caregivers. So we talked about the 3 promises. The last one we haven't talked about is making a difference. So after people find their joy every day, after they do what they love, what the third one is make a difference. Does do the first two sort of lead directly into that? Is it a result of or of doing the first two?
That's a great question. They each, it's I call it a cycle. Like the 3 promises of positives, a cycle where each one influences each other and they go different directions. So if you find joy, that does put you in a good state of mind. That makes you more likely to be creative, which will then put you in touch with what you love to do. Then you have more energy to give to other people, so make a difference. So that's one way to go for sure. Another is when you feel all of a sudden that real negative energy coming over you and that thought avalanche starts coming, negative stuff, is to say, wait a second, let me focus on somebody else. Let me focus on doing something for somebody else. And that's a way that often will get you feeling better. Then you're more inclined to find joy. And so
One feeds the other.
One feeds the
no
other.
matter which one you do first, it's going to feed, and you'll end up with all 3 promises.
That's right, exactly. And, you know, the one thing I have to say right off the bat about make a difference is so often, I'll just say it this way. I was talking to my wife when I was working with my dad, and I had my speaking schedule. I tried to limit it, tried to stay closer to home and do mostly my executive coaching, which I can do through video conferencing all around the world. That I was saying to my wife, boy, you know, I still feel like I'm supposed to be doing bigger, you know, some bigger things, you know, and get out and help more people. And my wife said to me, you need to give yourself credit for what you're doing every day for your father, every day for your mother, and for what you're doing for us. That's giving. And the story's not about me, but for me to share with all of you is that when you give yourself credit, like really take psychological credit for the good work you're doing for your family, that in and of itself makes you feel better. You might not up here go, I feel great now that I'm in a caregiving situation. But when you really, truly, honestly take it in and say, I am making a difference in the life of a loved one and in my family, and that makes a difference. That's the first thing that I just wanted to share.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right
It really is. That you know, we don't give ourselves credit. I think a lot of caregivers don't give themselves credit for everything that they do, and they don't feel sometimes that they're doing it good enough or fast enough or whatever. But just, you know, finding the joy every day, doing what you love, which is going to make a difference, or make a difference which will lead to the others, will create a scenario of fulfillment. And I think that's the whole essence of your book is, you know, be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's going to explode or overflow to others. And what could be better than that?
You know, it's so true. And when we think about the make a difference, it's so easy just to find opportunities to acknowledge other people. And caregiving, there are health aides and nurses and administrators that when they're doing something, when they do something good, acknowledge them in a very personal way. Tell them, you know, what you value and what they did, and be specific and tell them the impact it had on you. That alone, that type of, if you just show up to take care of your loved one and you acknowledge all the people around you that are doing good things, that alone will make a huge difference, because the ripple effect, when you say something authentically positive to somebody who deserves it, they take that to their families and the other people that they're taking care of, the people they run into at the store. It just makes a huge difference. And you know, I guarantee you, acknowledge people as much as you can, and you'll feel the benefit of it. And you feel better, and ultimately you have more people around you that want to help you and take care of you as well.
Yeah, that is really, really true. Just a couple quotes from your book.
All right.
Fulfillment is finding joy in your day, every day.
Yes.
Fulfillment is about making a difference every day, consciously thinking of opportunities beyond your immediate self-interest to give to others.
Yes.
And by giving to others, it's almost like that saying, what you give, you get.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What you're giving out, the positive, the good, it's going to come back to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot like that. And, caregivers always say, I don't know how I can do this. It sounds good, but I don't know what I could do to fulfill these three promises in my life. And just so, if you're one of those people thinking that right now, David has a wonderful section in the back of the book for the first, second, and third promises, specifically simple things you can do. And I'm just going to share a couple before we have to end today. Find joy every day. Read the paper. Listen to music. Pray. Take a walk. Call a friend. Take a hot shower. Write in a journal. Look at pictures. Hug and kiss your family. Talk to God. Dance. Take a power nap. Enjoy playing with an animal. Those are things that you can find joy in every day. And the second promise, do what you love. What could you do? You could read a few pages of a book that inspires you. You could do some of your crafting. You could sing a song that you really like. You could dance a dance that excites you. You could write a poem. You could cook. You could play a game online if it's something that you love to do. Engage in your hobby. Things you love to do. Just find even 5 minutes, right, David?
Right.
5
exactly.
minutes will
Just
do
5
it.
minutes.
And the third promise, make a difference. Help a loved one. Say thank you. Pray for somebody. Introduce someone. Welcome people. Provide advice. Hug someone, which is one of my personal favorites.
Yes.
Plan a favor. Hold the door for people. Tuck someone into bed. And do a chore for someone. Those are examples of every promise, simple little things that anybody can do that will make a difference, provide joy, and do something that they like, right?
Yeah, and the research that I've done real quickly is that I've found that if you every day just 5 minutes for each of these promises, you do them, you increase your level of fulfillment by I think it was 92% of all people do it.
I'm sure. Well, this has been wonderful. Unfortunately, we're out of time today.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You can
Thank
find
you.
David's books at Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. So ask your local Barnes & Noble, get it for you. You can check it out on Amazon. The Three Promises, The Law of the Garbage Truck. In the meantime, we will be back next Tuesday, same time, same place for another show. In the meantime, call Arden Courts, get your free book of the 36-hour day, and don't forget, give somebody a hug because they need it and so do you. And that's my mantra. We'll see you next time. Take care.